All right, guys. So we are at the was this the Bruiser compound? Is that what this is?
Sure.
So we obviously were on range in the last episode. We got a little bit of downtime while we're here in Oregon. Our last night. So what you can't see behind the cameras, we've got the guys hanging out, smoking cigars, having some good Oban. So Joe, thank you for having us out. And I wanted to sit down and ask you a few questions. Mainly, given your background, I wanted to ask some questions that I get very often. And given that I have no operational experience, I was like, you know what? Let me sit down with Joe, ask him, see what his thoughts are on it, and we'll go from there. And then I've got one special question for you at the end, so we'll save that one for later. I know we were kind of getting a little bit to it, so I'm glad we've got the camera on now. But yeah, I'm going to tell you guys up front, this is going to be a lot of just this right here. So if you're not liking our faces, just let this play in the background while you guys pretend to work.
And treat it like a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So first question that I get a lot. So for those who, if you didn't watch the first episode, go back and watch the first episode. But for those who don't know, give us a quick background on what it is you did, and that'll bring some relevance to what we're going to talk about.
So I medically retired in 2018. I did 14 years in service, all of which was spent on the West Coast SEAL teams. Did 4 deployments, and then did 2 tours as an instructor. The first tour was as a land warfare instructor, teaching scope carbine tactics, both rural reaction to contact, that kind of stuff, patrolling. I was a platoon, troop, and team lead sniper, and then I finished my career as the course manager and course supervisor for the NSW sniper course, and that is where I ended my career, was running. I had 20 instructors, 10 on each coast, and was the course manager for the SEAL sniper course.
So short story long, he has a lot of experience in long-range shooting. So the number one question I get a lot, and it's something you and I have talked about quite a bit offline, is LPVO versus Red Dot. Okay. I get that question a lot, and people ask me like, hey, do I get an LPVO? Do I get a Red Dot? What do you think? And I've given my opinion on it as a civilian, but as somebody who has operational experience, and somebody who instructs, and to this day still instructs, what's your opinion, LPVO versus Red Dot?
I think this is kind of plays into the question of that everybody gets asked. I don't care what Instagram page you have, which is the do it all, or hey, I have this one rifle, what should I put on it? And I think I've talked about this in other videos, which is I think people really need to find their why. And you need to identify what your application, what your use is, and what your training level supports you using that rifle for. And so if you don't have a background in precision rifle, you don't understand ballistics, you don't understand building reticles, you don't understand how to utilize that piece of equipment, then you're buying capability that you're not using. The other thing about an LPVO is that there's more failure points built into an LPVO than there is into an aim point. And so on an LPVO, you now have scope rings, the scope base, the turrets, you have to, zeroing procedures are typically more in depth on an LPVO than they are, as well as magnification rings and all those other things you have to worry about, ocular focus. To follow up on that is usually most LPVOs also suck through batteries significantly faster than a Red Dot. Mm-hmm. So there's just more things to worry about with an LPVO, especially if you don't understand what the reticle is, what mills are, how to build a reticle, how to build a ballistic program, your gun in a ballistic program. You're signing up for a lot based off of capability you'll never use. And so Red Dots, for somebody who isn't there yet or doesn't feel like they're going to go there, doesn't have any interest in those things, becomes a much simpler solution and one that has so many less failure points. And then they go, well, I want more magnification, or I get this from cops a lot. Mm-hmm. And they go, well, it's for PID. I said, dude, put a magnifier on. Because then if you're on outside security and you want to see what that guy's holding in his hands, what is that the guy we're looking for, I can flip it up, I can see it, I can take it off, I can put it back down, and then if I need to go in the house, it's a throw lever away, I can take it off, put it in a pouch, and go do CQB.
So it's funny you say that, because one of the things that I've heard from a lot of guys who do surveillance now as a part of their day job is they say, dude, we just carry binos. We run Red Dots and carry binos. Because it's like, if we need a PID, most of the time the magnifier isn't enough, depending on the distance.
Yes.
And depending on the light and where they're at, if we got to see through blinds or whatever.
And a lot of guys have cameras with high power lenses too.
Yeah. So if you really need a PID, have a specific tool for that, and then just use your Red Dot as needed.
And this becomes not an argument. This becomes a discussion that from a guy with my type of background versus a law enforcement background, that I've had this discussion with JR, my business partner, or other police officers, which is, when we were overseas, you could point a gun at everybody. They were unknown, known, doesn't matter. As long as they weren't friendly forces, you could point a gun at them and you weren't going to get caught on your phone or, end up on Channel 6 News, whatever. Whereas in law enforcement, you really can't point a gun at everybody. You can't hold external security and just be pointing down an alley when there's nobody down there.
Yeah.
You can't point your gun at news crews. You can't point your gun at, the mom who answered the door, with her holding a baby. Like, she doesn't necessarily get a gun. And so the thought that you're going to use that necessarily to then PID means you're pointing your gun at somebody to use that optic on that weapon. So it's a question that people want a really simple answer to, and there's not really one there.
Gotcha.
So what I tell people is, I said, identify what you need a rifle for. If you live in an apartment complex, if you live in the middle of LA, if you're in Chicago and you just want a gun to protect your home and your family, do you need 3 power, 6 power, 8 power, 10 power on your gun? And they go, well, I'd rather have it and not need it. Well, that's great. Do you know how to use it?
Exactly.
Do you train to use it? Do you train to use the magnification? And then, I know one of your other questions is going to hit on this. And then, what ancillary equipment are you attaching to that rifle? And do you train to use that as well? Because I think that's one of your follow-on questions that will go along with this. So level of training is also a huge thing, especially with LPVOs, which that's what we did today. We shot LPVOs. And
so for, let's say for the average citizen out there, the average American who's preparing for whatever it is, whether it's home defense or into the world or whatever, do you think they would be better served running a red dot versus an LPVO?
The average person who does not shoot regularly and wants to do a really simple zero and be able to engage a man-sized target to what most people consider quote-unquote long range. Like, how many you guys go to a gun store and you're like, I shot this deer, I shoot long range, I shot this deer at like 150 yards. Like, that's great. Yeah. Like, you can do that with a red dot.
Yeah.
So personally, and this is coming from somebody who I love LPVOs.
Sure.
But I like what an LPVO gives me, and I know how to use it.
Sure.
And so, but I think most people are better served with a really simple red dot setup with a good mount that isn't going to fail you, and with a long battery life, because it's just less things to worry about.
Yeah. Boom. There you go. Done. Video done. That's all we need to talk about. Done. Go get your red dots. Okay. So let's dive down the rabbit hole a little bit. For those who they want to dive down the rabbit hole. They have the facility to where they can train at a distance. They want to develop that skill set.
Okay.
They are developing they're improving their ability to develop their ballistics.
Yep.
And put that in and create a calculator of some sort and know what their dope is. So, if they wanted that dual capability, do you recommend a offset red dot, and what does it look like? Because, and I'll tell you my opinion on this, and then I'd love to hear your feedback. But I personally prefer the red dot on top, simply because I feel like it's more versatile, especially working like a barricade, just for the type of shooting I do. If I have to work a barricade, if I have to work something close, or if I'm shooting like today when we were shooting the competition, having to find the dot or find the target and then get down into the magnification. The red dot I feel like is better because you can find the red dot, put it on the dot, and then just drop down to the magnification, see where you're at,
100%,
and be there. But a lot of guys, the big thing that I see on the internet is the offset red dot. Something I don't really like, and that's just me personally, because when I run into a VTAC barricade, it is obstructed by the barricade. Or if you go to like offset angles, like the mailbox, the side slots, it's hard to rotate that dot over if that's what you're shooting for. And the way I see a lot of guys using it is you've spent all this money to get a scope that has a great eye box, it has a great 1 power, has a great red dot capability, but then you're shooting off of a $500 red dot that's offset.
Yep.
So what are your opinions on that? Because I've seen your rifles have offset red dots on the side. So what's the thought process on that?
So for me personally, I agree with all your statements on having it 12 o'clock. For a gun that I'm going to do run-and-gun type things, that I'm going to be doing, I might be doing something close or holding external security, and then I view the red dot in two different fashions. One, as a secondary backup sighting system, and two, as it's easier for me to keep a cheek weld and just cant the gun to have a red dot in an extremis type situation. Whereas if I have my optic at 10 power, like I can either and somebody pops up at a distance that I can engage, that It's kind of like that, do I transition or do I reload? Do I, at a distance that I'm like, oh crap, that person's right there. It's easier to just can at the gun, I've got a dot, pull the trigger, than it is to completely change my cheek weld.
Gotcha.
And then access that sight. But for a gun that I'm doing more precision type work or like DMR type work, I like the 12 o'clock as well. Because the 12 for all the reasons you just said. And I explained this to some of these guys today, which is where most 45-degree dots sit. There's two things you have to worry about. If you put them in the back, behind the knobs, they obscure the knobs. Or two, they put it right in line with your magnification ring. So now when you're doing those gross movements and you're moving that magnification ring, your hand's running right into that dot.
Yep.
So some people put them in the back, which then why do you have an LPVO at that point? Because it makes it harder to adjust the power, to utilize that big eye box, that true 1 power at the low range, whatever it is. And if you put it at the front, unless you have like a Badger mount that can put it right in front of that, and especially depending on how you have your gun set up, how your eye box is set up, how you like your stock, what your length of pull is, it ends up putting that red dot almost every single time right at that transition from the front of the magwell to the rail. And so when you run a barricade or you're trying to get support on a precision type gun, a way to gain support is to run that magwell right into that barricade. Sure. So if you're and then get as many contact points as possible. So I want to get that gun up against that right scope against the barricade, the gun up against the barricade, the mag against the barricade. And so I get all these points of contact. And what happens is you have that 45-degree offset right there. You're running that sucker straight into the barricade.
You just slam it in there.
And so again, you have this 5. Now, yeah, you have better mounts. I run all Arasaka. They're great mounts. You can run a T1 there. It's a really robust optic. Great. I don't really try to make a habit of just jamming my optic into barricades. Yeah. So that's why on a precision type gun, I tend to run at 12 o'clock as well. Okay. The only other thing also is as you start to get limited exposure and stuff and you're peeking over the tops of cars and stuff, you literally rotate the gun, and instead of getting that really weird cheek weld and you're kind of floating the gun like this, it kind of gives you an in-between where you can roll that gun over the hood of a car and you actually have an optic system. Yeah. And so you can keep kind of a more vertical head if you're fighting around a car and somebody is at a distance that you can still engage with a red dot. And you don't have to try to get that eye box and get that, the buttstocks floating off your shoulder. So just another thing you can utilize it for.
Sure. Okay, so let's say they before I dive into that, if you're running an offset red dot, are you running backup irons or are you using the red dot as your backup sighting?
I like redundant aiming systems. I consider the dot a redundant aiming system.
Okay.
So
I ask because I see guys running LPVOs with red dots, with lasers, with iron sights, and I'm like, dude, that's a lot of stuff on your rifle. It gets heavy over time.
Yes, 100%. If you doubt the capability of your red dot, then honestly look for a different red dot. But at that point, if it makes you feel better, it's your gun, man. Like, it's your money. You do you, boo.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so guys who again, we're diving down the rabbit hole of LPVOs. So if you are making that choice to run an LPVO, what's your zero distance? I get this question a lot because guys are like, oh, do you run the 36? Do you run the 25? Do you run the 50? Or do you run a 100? What zero are you recommending for guys who are running scopes on their carbines?
If you're running a scope on any rifle, I run 100-yard zero. 100-meter zero, doesn't matter. If you're a meter guy, run meters. If you're a yard guy, run yards.
And why is that?
Okay, so this is like a 45-minute class, but the short part of it is if you guys are creating an intersect between line of sight and trajectory of the bullet. And so the trajectory of the bullet is an arc. And so as you guys increase that from that trajectory point, that where that intersect point is, as you bring it closer, it increases that angle. Because what you're doing is you're dialing the optic down, which dials the barrel at a more extreme angle. The more extreme that angle gets, you're going to cross at a shorter distance, which means you have to worry about less offset. Like some guys don't like, I got to hold top of head at 7 yards to hit the tee box. That's great. But what happens is that with that extreme angle, now at 180 yards with a 25-yard 193 mount, which is a 226 optic height, if you do a 25-yard zero on most 5.56 guns, you're going to have about 14 inches high at 180 yards. So your round is still climbing at 150. So you try to go for a limited exposure headshot or something you have a smaller target. Dude, you're a foot over their head at distance.
That's a lot of hold.
And so that's now, is that wrong? Not necessarily, but it's something you have to know. And so then it's just understanding what your gun does. And so that's the whole thing. Like guys like a 25 or guys like a 50 or guys like a 36. It's like this is why my big push lately is for guys to understand ballistic apps because they're free. You can get them on your phone, or they cost you as much as a Monster does. Go skip a burrito one day and get
No guac.
a ballistic app.
No guac.
No guac. Skip guac at Chipotle and get a ballistic app on your phone, and then just watch some basic videos on what the important information is, because you can do things like just adjust the sight height and watch what it does to the trajectory of your bullet.
Yeah.
And people can make informed decisions. For me, on my 11.5-inch MCX, I run 100 yard zero, because for me, at the distances that I'll be engaging with that gun, that I never go over a half-inch above line of sight, and I'm good to like 300 yards and before it falls off of like 6 inches underneath. So from 0 to 300, I'm like within 6 inches of line of sight instead of 12 inches high or that like. So I run 100 yard zero.
Yeah.
And so from 0 to 100, I have to know that if I want to make a headshot, I'm holding top of the head.
Yeah.
If I'm closer to 100, then I'm probably I can start dropping it down. But whether I carve the top out of your skull or I center punch you, you're not going to be a happy camper.
Yeah,
so.
sure. Yeah, be a bad day. But quick shameless plug, if you want to watch some of those videos and get some of that information, Bruiser actually has a ton of videos on his Instagram account. So you can go to, was it Bruiser Industries?
This is at Bruiser Industries.
Yeah, on Instagram, and you can watch. He has a wealth of information on there, and they're all pretty lengthy videos, but it's a good video to play in the background while you're at work or whatever. So having said that, having talked about that, we move on to the gun, right? Yep. And the other question that I get a lot is, and I know you get this a lot because we've talked about this, we've seen it on your Instagram, the do-all, the be-all, end-all rifle length. If the average shooter is out there and they're looking for one barrel length that can kind of give them good capability for everything they do, what would you recommend? And I preface this with, you and I have already talked about this, that training and knowing your holds, again, this goes back to ballistic data, we can make those hits with shorter guns. But what would you recommend for the average shooter who's looking and they go, look, I just need one gun that I want to train a lot with. What's that barrel length look like?
So how far did we shoot today with my 13.9?
What do we shoot?
620?
620, yeah.
And consistently, right?
Yeah. So I put 5 in probably like an 8-inch, 6-inch square.
The group at the end was within 4 inches and 4 or 5 rounds.
Yeah.
So the thing people get really locked in on, and because they watch guys who are like, well, if you put this gun up to a door frame, it's like, well, you don't understand entering a house. Like, people have been clearing houses with 20-inch M16A2s. Like, okay, now, do you need that? No. With that being said, and then you get super short, though, and they go, well, you only got 150 foot per second velocity loss. It's like, well, yeah, depending on the ammo. So
Sure.
Today we were shooting my 13.9 with 77 grain, and we were making consistent hits to 600 plus. That's a safe thing to say. And so for me, I think the best, I hate this term, but I'm going to say it anyways, do it all. It's something that you can run in a carbine class. You can do run and gun. You can still do CQB. You can throw a suppressor on and it's not 6 feet long, is a 14.5. Okay, if you're really into 13.7, 13.9 guns and you really think that half-inch is going to help you, more power to you.
Hey, look, that half-inch makes a big difference. Right, am I right? Yeah.
So 13.7 to 14.5, I think, really sweet spot. Some guys like 12.5s, whatever, but it's the same thing. Guys go like, well, you only lose 150 feet per second going from 20-inch to 18-inch on 6.5 Creedmoor or 308 or whatever. Yes, but what are you really gaining maneuverability-wise versus what are you losing or velocity-wise? And the question really comes down to what ammo are you running a lot?
So that brings up an excellent point, and that's something that I've talked a lot about with people offline that I don't talk a lot about publicly, but given your experience and the time you were in, how much has ammo developed? How much has it gotten better from when you first got into what it is now?
Well, the thing is, rifles is one of those things that people, I think, have a tendency to miss the point, unlike what they do typically with pistols. So if you were to say, hey, I'm going to go to the range and I'm going to shoot 1,000 rounds of 9mm, you're not going to go buy HSTs, gold dot. You're not going to go buy a bunch of hollow point. But that same person who is really stressed out about that ammo they put in their concealed carry piece when they carry it, that gun they put in their truck, in their bedroom to defend their home. Guess what ammo 99% of the time's in there? The same ammo they shoot their range days with. They buy 1,000 rounds of 55 grain, 62 grain, M855 military type ammo.
Sure.
And they go, well, it's good enough for the ammo. Yeah, I deployed with 115 grain ball in my SIG 226 for 14 years. Like, that doesn't mean that that's what I'm rolling with on my Glock 45 that I carry every day. So I think it's the same. If you are taking a rifle that seriously, the ammo consideration should be exactly the same. Is that there's range ammo that you use because it's cheap, it's plentiful, it runs well, and that's what you use. And then there's the ammo that I use to defend myself, my family, my property, my home, my car, my whatever it may be. And you choose that ammo in the same way, given what are you looking for? Are you looking for external ballistics, terminal ballistics? Am I looking for penetration issues? Do I live in an apartment? Do I want to choose a round that only has 9 inches of penetration versus, hey, 55 grain ball might have 40 inches of penetration. I went to a sniper summit years ago, and they had the FBI lead ballistician there, and he asked us that question, and he goes, hey, if you're doing clearance on a trailer park, would you rather have a 308 gas gun or a 9mm pistol? And like you feel it, the whole tension in the room is like, okay, we feel this is like a trick question. I know where this is going. We're going to answer anyways. I mean, 9mm. That's like, I know you're going to explain why we're wrong, but I'm going to tell you anyways. And he goes, and everybody's like, oh, 9mm. And he goes, okay, here is a popular defense hollow point issued by law enforcement agencies all over the country, 9mm round. Had 40 inches of penetration with a 124 HST, whatever it was. Yeah. And then he goes, okay, here is a 110 grain special use 308 developed for gas gun round. It had 8.5 inches of penetration.
Yeah. So it's funny, I heard that stat at Pressburg's class at his no-fail pistol. And he was talking about, like, look, you own that round, right? So even though maybe you're on target, you have to understand that over-penetration. And that's one of the big things that people don't take into consideration of what they're doing. And no, it's just, there's more that goes into it that I don't think people are realizing as far as kit. Like, that ammo plays a big part in that.
Huge. I mean, and that's the same thing with like shooting a 55 grain. The way, if you pull the bullet out of a 55 grain and you pull the bullet out of a 72 grain or a 77 grain, you pull the bullet out of a 62 grain AMAX, you pull and you start looking at them, you can tell what bullet is designed for what. And then, like, we were shooting 175 tipped Sierra Match Kings today. Those are tipped hollow points. Like, those are made for that tip to come off and for that thing to do a massive amount of damage on target. And then the difference between, like, it's 77 grain. Like, it's a 77 grain hollow point. No, it's a ballistic hollow point, and that has to do with the manufacturing process, not necessarily its ability to expand and create damage on target.
Sure.
And so there's two different things there. They're both called boat tail hollow points, but like something like an AMAX or something from Hornady that has a tip on it is a ballistic tipped hollow point that is made to have a high BC, but then the ballistic tip removes itself when it hits a medium. And then you look at the bullet and it looks like any 9mm. You have the lines down the side because it's made to expand.
Sure.
And so they make bullets like that for gas guns, for your bolt guns, if you're a hunter, hunters know this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But people don't think of it then as like self-defense.
Sure.
So they make that for 5.56, they make that for 300 black, they make that for 308. You can buy those same rounds, and I think that same care should be taken with your self-defense pistol as should be taken with any rifle that you are utilizing in that fashion.
So that brings me then to the next question. So ammo obviously plays a huge part in that, and people don't take that factor into account enough. But what they ultimately want to talk about is kit, is gear, is rifles. So in terms of rifles, what are you looking for in a quality rifle? What are you looking for? Because what you guys didn't get to see and what we got to partake in was seeing some of the amazing firearms that you have. And what is it that you look for in a rifle in particular? Or what, let me rephrase this way. What do you recommend the average gun owner should look for in a rifle?
Are we talking about AR-15s?
Yeah, because that's what most people are going to be running anyways.
So the things people need to realize is that it's really easy to get caught up in, okay, this is billet, this is monolithic, this is in black multicam, this has lightning cuts, this has a swooped mag well, all the frivolities that are the external aesthetics of the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you need to realize is how an AR-15 works. A forged upper and lower with a good barrel, a good trigger, a good bolt and extractor, and that's gassed well, whether that it's a proper sized gas port, gas block that's adjusted right, or a buffer and spring combination. So that whole equation with a good barrel, trigger, and bolt that's where you're going to make your money.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have a rattly upper and lower. You could all these things. It really doesn't matter if the trigger is consistent and you know the feel of it. And there's people who shoot GI triggers just fine, but a good barrel and a good barrel depends on what your application is. Are you building a DMR or are you building a gun like that you're going to run red dot classes and you're going to shoot 15,000 rounds a year on?
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a 1 MOA accuracy standard? Do you have a half MOA accuracy standard? Or are you just like, hey, I want a gun that goes 25,000 rounds and holds sub 2 MOA?
Yeah.
Like, because for my distances, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's the decision that you have to answer. And then that drives whether I'm doing a stainless barrel, a chrome line hammer forged, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up because when we were talking with Noveski, when we were going through the tour talking about barrels, you know, the QC they have on their barrels and the stringent testing they have for their barrels and what they produce accuracy-wise straight out of the factory is pretty impressive. But then when we were talking about the NSW rifles and they were saying, yeah, some of the testing was only 3 MOA. And it was like I would have never, I personally as a civilian, I would have never known that had they not told me. So yeah, it is very much application driven.
Well, and the thing is, you have to look at some of those testing standards are like, it has to hold 3 MOA, but the round count might be 15,000 rounds.
Sure.
Like, and the firing cycle is like, it has to fire 1 round every 3 seconds for 1,000 rounds or 500 rounds.
Yeah, and how many civilians are shooting their guns like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. So we're talking about civilians. We're talking about the average Joe. We're talking about somebody who wants to maybe get a little more in depth into their training, into their kit, and be more serious about what they're doing. So then moving on, let's say we've gone down the rabbit hole. We've got the LPVO. We've got the offset red dot, whether that's 12 o'clock or some sort of offset. We've got a good rifle set up. Let's talk about kit. So you and I have been talked a lot about chest rigs lately, but there's more to it than just chest rigs. Now I am an advocate for the chest rig because I feel like if you're going to grab a rifle, and you posted this in your story a couple weeks ago and said, hey, if you're in a situation where you feel like you need a rifle, you're probably going to want more than 1 mag, right? So you need something that carries more mags. But what are some of the other things that people who are wanting to get into this and dive into, I say long range, but let's say mid-range to long-range shooting, what are some things they should have in their kit? Because we worked on a lot of things today. I used my Kestrel. They used their ballistic apps. We used a backpack. We used a variety of bags, tripods. So for that person who's wanting to dive into those things, what are some of the things you recommend them get as far as kit goes to aid them in their shooting process, to make it easier for them to get on target at further distances?
So I think there's a never-ending escalation of gear, like there is in any discipline, whether it's USPSA, IDPA, 3-gun, whatever. And I think people are in such a worry that they don't have every box checked that they never start. Mm-hmm. And so people go, oh, long range. Well, if I want to get in a long range, then I have to have a really right stuff tripod, a spotting scope, spotting binos, a laser rangefinder, a Kestrel. And they go, oh, that's $7,000. I'm never going to be able to afford that, so I'll never start. And it's like, well, no. You can. I mean, we didn't have a chronograph out today. Did everybody true their guns?
Yeah.
We hit to 600 plus.
Mm-hmm.
And we just used box BC. We trued our guns. And we were hitting like center mass 600 plus. And so it's a matter of starting and understanding and utilizing the equipment you have and letting your experience drive those equipment choices versus like guys go to PRS matches and they see these people who've been shooting for 10 years and all the equipment they have and they go, oh, I want all of this. And they get really overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, do you have a precision rifle? Do you have 3 magazines? Do you have a ballistic app in your phone? Okay. Do you have some way to spot? Can you buy a backpack? That could be a JanSport backpack from Walmart. Start someplace. Mm-hmm. I think the basics end up being, do you have extra mags for your platform? Do you have a rear bag? Do you have tools that you can troubleshoot, zero your gun, work on your gun on the range? And then do you have a backpack? That backpack does not have to be an Eberly stock on Mystery Ranch, super expensive $600 backpack. Like, go on Amazon and buy one that's the size you want. Start there. It's
and they probably have one in their closet already.
Yes,
if we're honest.
100%.
Yeah.
Use that. And then we were talking about, the application of like the pump pillows and stuff. And I've had these arguments with, you've never been on a 2-way range. Actually, I have. We talked today. It's like, well, you think about all these bags, and they go, no, I think about what I have on me that could work the same as those bags. Mm-hmm. And so those bags just fit a range application, so I don't have to take my $600 puffed bag, put it in a dry bag, and then use that at a range or sit on it and put unnecessary stress on another high dollar piece of equipment. The bag's $60.
Yeah.
But what I was showing you guys is like, if I went out and I was going out and doing my old job, current job, if you're going to be overnight someplace, you're a law enforcement officer, what might you have in your truck? Could I have a backpack that has a cold weather jacket, gloves, a beanie, something that is compressible, it's a decent size, and can I use that to give myself extra support if I had to use my rifle in that fashion? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, then that's something that I might want to train with and be able to utilize because it's readily available to me in these situations that I could use it. I happen to have pump pillows for you guys to use, but it's using something of that size, of that style in that way. And then what you actually use, the world's your oyster at that point.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, ballistic app is just, I think, something that is way underutilized. They're so inexpensive, if not free. Mm-hmm. And people get really overwhelmed by all of the things that are listed that you have to fill out. And you already brought it up, but I've put a couple videos up. Me and Maddie Nelson talked about it. I did a ballistics talk on my Instagram about it. But really, go get training. Go talk to anybody. Go read Brian Litz. Go look at his Instagram for applied ballistics. Modern Sniper up in Washington. Phil and Kaylin are doing good stuff and putting out a lot of stuff about ballistics. Understanding what's necessary to accomplish the information you're trying to get out of that ballistic app is really critical. Like, it's quality of information in is quality of information out. Mm-hmm. But to get the basics, to understanding, what changing the riser height on your AR-15 does to your zero, you don't have to have like, hey, what's my DA today? What's my velocity? Dude, it's 100 yards. Like, just swag your velocity, man.
Yeah.
But it'll just show you, given a 4-inch bore height versus a 2.5-inch bore height or optic height, what it does. Don't even pick the right bullet. Use a 55 versus a 62 versus if you don't know, that's fine, but it'll still give you an answer of like, oh shit, I didn't realize that if I changed from a 100-yard zero or a 50-yard zero or a 25-yard zero or a 36-yard zero, what does that do to any bullet at 100 yards, 150 yards, 180 yards, 250 yards? And I can do that in 3 minutes on my iPhone.
Yeah.
And it just goes, oh shit, Joe Schmo down the street who was a Marine in 2002 who was told it was 25,300. It's like, well, maybe it's 25,350 where you live. Maybe it's a 50,267. Mm-hmm. Maybe that LCAN that was zeroed for Camp Pendleton in California in August, maybe that 400-yard line is actually 370 where you live, or 476. Mm-hmm. It's not a do-all situation. And come to a class, and I will. But it's easy, and you can find out what those values are in those optics, and then use a ballistic calculator. And maybe it says 4, but you can assign that reticle a new value if you understand what this program that cost you $299 can give you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know we've got some more scotch to drink and some more cigars to smoke. So I got one last question for you, and that's that, we were talking a bit offline, and I asked you about your history being a SEAL, and you said that you were a former SEAL. It's not something that you currently hold. So having moved on to that, where you are now and what you're going into or what you're hoping to go into, what is at this current stage in your life, what is the legacy you want to leave on the industry or in this world?
So God, that's a deep question.
So I saved it for last.
I was given, when I looked at becoming a SEAL, I wanted to be a SEAL since I was like 8.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is long before, what's that fucking movie? Act of Valor, long before Bin Laden. Like I joined in 2004. I was delayed entry in 2003. Like I wanted to be a SEAL back, when I was 8. So in 1991, like I was thinking about being a SEAL. Like 1990, like all we had was Charlie Sheen. Like Charlie Sheen was like the shit. Like I read books about guys who were like UDTs in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't the movies, the actors, the screenplays, the Fox News commentaries, any of these things. And I was kind of one of those guys that I developed really late. I wasn't super athletic my whole life. I kind of came into being athletic and big like as I finished high school, got into college, and then got into the teams. And my whole view on being a SEAL was I didn't feel like the SEAL teams or that qual owed me anything. I just strived to prove that I belonged or I deserved to stand next to the guys I got to stand next to.
Mm-hmm.
And I stood next to some mountains of men, some guys who were bigger than life. And most of those guys, the guys that I looked up to the most, are not in the gun industry. They're not writing magazine articles. They're not on Fox News. They're not doing anything in the public eye. They've moved on, and they were the dudes who I would follow to the gates of hell, and were the best examples of people I ever met. Personally, I was a gun dork, like long before I wanted to be a SEAL. Like I grew up around guns. My grandfather was a sheriff. I was a gun guy. I like this stuff. I like shooting. And so the SEAL teams gave me an opportunity to really dive into that. And given my addictive personality, I realized really early in my career that I could get a lot by going outside of my community to get information from people that had no background, tactically, soft, military-wise, law enforcement, but who were competitive shooters or who were just friends of mine who shot more than I did. And I will say to this day, I learned more about putting metal to metal and metal to meat outside of my community than I ever learned in, period, by a factor of 10. And so there's a really long way to say, to me, being a ex-SEAL, people are like, oh, he's a SEAL. Yeah, I get it. I think that hangs a hat on that everything I teach or everything that I have to give people came from my community, which is a fallacy. And so if I go out and I throw that out as the primary thing in my bio, I'm overselling what my community gave me. They gave me a lot, and I worked next to some amazing people. And on the tactics side, CQB, land warfare, OTBs, taking down ships, go-plats, skydiving, all learned in the SEAL teams. Got it, great. But being a shooting instructor, the majority of that information was not learned in my community. And it was learned from guys like Bruce Gray, George Gardner, the guys that I shot with at Team Gap. Like, those are the guys who taught me really how to be, Taylor. The guys.
Oh, he's never going to live that one down. He's always going to bring that up. That's always going to be brought up.
Never watched it.
Yeah.
I was seriously blessed to come into the precision shooting world and competitive shooting world at a time around guys who were open to talk to me. I really tried to, like, even though I had 3 deployments, 4 deployments, 2 deployments, whatever, I had a bio. I shut my mouth, opened my ears to guys who had more information in what I wanted to learn than they did. And I can never thank those guys enough. And so my legacy is I want to try to be that for other people, and it not be like, hey, worship the ground I walk on. Hey, buy my t-shirt. Hey, play my video game character, whatever. Come to a class, man. And I view classes as a conversation. It's not here, this is what I can give you from my infinite experience. It's, hey, what are you looking to better yourself at? And then I'll give you what I have that hopefully fits within your question.
Yeah.
Like, because not everybody's the same. If all 5 of you came to a class, you're all going to be going for a slightly different reason.
Yeah.
You guys could say, like, oh, I'm looking to get better. Hey, I'm looking to... but it's really all of your base level experience is different, and what you guys are going to take away is different. If you guys sat down and wrote down your 5 biggest points, what you took away from the class, might be some overlap, but I guarantee you they're all different, even though I talked and gave you guys all the exact same information.
Mm-hmm.
And so I view teaching as a conversation between instructor and student, and I get something out of every class. I hope to get as much out of teaching, whether it's learning how people learn, or I might explain something slightly different that, you might go, you go, huh? And then I explain a different way, and then he goes, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Check that one for next time. That might be a good way to come about it. I picked up those last 2 students. And that's it, man. I like working with people who want to have the conversation, who want to talk, who want to get better together in that way, instructor-student relationship, or just shooter to shooter, and on a peer-to-peer level, and not a superior to inferior, not a I have a bio, you don't. Because the one thing I've learned in this industry, especially lately, is like the guys with tactical bios, our bio starts to age the second we hang up the plates.
Sure.
So if you're 2 years, 5 years, 6 years, 8 years out of service, and all you've done is regurgitate the things from your last deployment, dude, you're aging like milk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, your information is 10 years old, you're not relevant anymore, and you don't even realize it. And so you have to have that conversation. Mm-hmm. And those cops who are coming through, who are just doing, 200 assaults a year in LAPD and Chicago and Detroit and whatever, they have things to tell you. And they go, hey, man, like, I was on this op and we did this and this worked out. And you're like, oh, shit, I never even thought about that. Like, hey, we're using drones now. I never used fucking drones. Hey, we're doing this. We're doing, like,
yeah.
Hey, optics have changed. We didn't really have magnifiers when I was serving, but they're a thing now. Mm-hmm. And so you have to go, and how many guys just go like, oh, I never used that, didn't work back then, doesn't work now. Like, great, there's still Vietnam, there's still guys from Vietnam who are alive who, like, yeah, they didn't have fucking optics. Like, they didn't wear plates either. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean they don't work now. And so that, you have to then, I hate this term, but like slow down to speed up. Like, you have to understand there's systems out there, there's techniques out there, there's equipment out there that you never used in a tactical environment that you're going to have to learn to stay relevant. And if you don't, and that's not your mindset, then dude, fine. I mean, honest to God, dude, high five. I'll buy you a beer. That's awesome. You did some cool shit back in the day. Like, move out of the way for the people who are motivated to learn. And those people don't have to have the same high-speed bio, the same ribbons on their chest, the same beret, tab, scroll, trident. I mean, take your pick. They don't. If they're motivated, staying on top of things, they're relevant, and they're open to the conversation. So
that's awesome. Well, I'm inspired. So, so people who are at the point and they've heard all this, they're like, okay, look, I want to take a class with you. Where can they find you? How can they get signed up for a class? Where can they find out about future classes?
So, JR and I both got out. We both have full-time jobs currently. It's been a really slow progress getting our website up. The Instagram's really been primarily me just trying to keep our message out and our voice. The web page is basically done. We just need to post it. There will be JR is training in Southern California with Tricell and doing a bunch of other stuff. He does stuff with Staccato and Modlite as well. I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest. If you guys want anything hosted, if you guys have a range and you guys are going to handle booking the students, call me. I can make shit happen. It's the last year and a half or two, it's the admin requirement of dealing with 20 individual students for 20 classes a year that I just haven't had the time for. Mm-hmm. That's changing soon. I don't know when this video is going to post. So look for big changes soon with Bruiser Industries, and we will have classes posted to our Instagram as well as our website soon. The website that's up there right now is just a GoDaddy placeholder. But if you guys follow bruiserindustries.com or follow us at Bruiser Industries, and look for updates, and I'll post them there.
Awesome. I will link both of those down below in the description. If you guys are interested, so for those of you who are in the DFW area, if you're interested in having Joe come out to the DFW area and hosting a class, comment down below, and if we can get enough guys that are interested, we will work with Joe to schedule that and make that happen. Outside of that, also leave a comment down below. If there's more content you want to see from Joe that we can collab on, or that, hey, we can pass it on to him to make sure he puts it out on the IG account, we'll pass that along. So leave comments down below of things that you're curious about, things you want to know more of. Outside of that, make sure that like and subscribe. Karate chop that bell so you get notified every time we upload a video, and we will see you guys in the next one.